Part 3 of Determinants of Companionship in Marriage includes the education background of both partners. You'll find that if there is a variation in education background of the partners, then there is bound to be some challenges unless you come to a common understanding. There are cases where if the man has a good educational background, he is learned, and gets into a relationship with a woman who is of low education standards, there are chances that the man, depending on how he has been brought up, he may treat the wife in a way that the wife may feel belittled. So he makes the woman feel inferior, such that even when it comes to decision making, he does not value the decisions of the woman, because he will consider her inferior, and thus even the decisions that she might make might not add value as far as the man is concerned. So this one can be a problem. And the problem may not really originate from the relationship of the partners, but the impact the parents will have on the man. If the man feels that he is the most learned person in their family, then there is a way that the parents treat him, and he expects the same treatment to be carried out by the wife. So if the vice versa happens, still there will be a problem. If a woman is more learned and may be making more money than the husband, then the vice versa is also likely to happen. But considering the nature of a man who is aggressive in nature, and they feel they have what we call patriarchy supremacy, whereby the man feels, even if I have low level of education, being the man of the house, education of the woman in this case will not count. Whether she is educated or not, when she comes home, she is my wife, and she has to behave like one. Sometimes for those women who are understanding and who wants the marriage work, they swallow their pride and humble themselves before their husbands. But there are those who feel they should not be belittled, and the education they have should also be put into consideration. So sometimes the women may become arrogant, they may undermine their husbands, and their husbands may feel belittled, and as a result of this, they may get withdrawn and the relationship can become strained. And that is why it is important, right from the beginning, before you reach a decision of having companionship, during courtship, these are issues that are supposed to be discussed exhaustively, and you agree on the terms of engagement. So sometimes there are some wise women, wise men who really don't take that as a major issue. You may find a woman is a high career woman, but when she comes home, she humbles herself, she handles her duty as a wife of the house, such that even a visitor who comes to that house, he'll not be able to tell that actually this is a high caliber woman. So it all depends on how the two partners relate in this relationship. The other factor that is equally important is the environment in which the two have been brought up. There are those who have been brought up in the rural areas, others brought up in the urban areas. Those brought up in the rural areas, they have been brought up in a cultural setup where the individual is part of the community and the society is really concerned with the welfare of this person because they consider him or her an integral part of the society. So the society plays an important role in bringing him or her up. So there is that element of sense of belonging. Visitors come, they want to know how you are doing. So in such a scenario, you may find visitors coming to check on one of their own, maybe during certain ceremonies, like when you have delivered a child, the people from the rural area will normally come to visit and to bless the child. That is because of being brought up in a rural setup. But there are those who are brought up in the urban areas. Now the urban areas, everybody minds his or her own business. Nobody knows even the welfare of the neighbor next door. They don't even know each other's names. Actually, they keep to themselves. They lead a solitary life. So that element of sense of belonging and that element of socialization is not very common in the urban areas. So depending on where each of those partners has been brought up, there is bound to be some conflict. Because, for example, if the woman is brought up in a rural setup, the people from the village will visit her once in a while to see how she is doing because of that sense of attachment, which if the man is brought up in an urban area will not be very comfortable with so many visitors coming to their home. So that one is bound to bring some conflict. So it is always important, as I am saying, during the courtship and nuptial relationship that those issues are discussed. You agree that though you come from an urban area, you know me, I'm brought up in a rural area, my relatives and friends will visit me once in a while. It is good we agree. If you feel uncomfortable, then we can always adjust and adapt depending on the locality where we are. So that if a woman moves now from the rural area to the urban area, she should be able to adapt to the urban lifestyle. But this one purely depends on how you agree. Then the other one, which is very silent, very sensitive, and very few people talk about it, is the sexual orientation. The partners maybe have different sexual orientations depending on how they have been brought up. There are those who are heterosexuals, this is the ordinary kind of a person where the relationship is between a man and a woman. Then there are those who are homosexuals. There are those who are lesbians, bisexuals, transgender, all those different types of sexual orientations. If they are not disclosed early enough, they can really complicate this relationship and it may not be able to survive. So if one is used to a certain sexual orientation different from the other, then the two may not be compatible. Some may feel as if what the other partner is doing is wrong, and the other partner feels that this other one is also very intrusive. And marriage is about understanding each other. Marriage is about give and take. Companionship is agreeing on certain issues. You have to let this go, you have to let that go. But as far as this particular issue of sexual orientation is concerned, if one is in a totally different sexual orientation from the other, there are chances that this union may not last, because one is not used to this kind of behavior, and introducing this behavior in the marriage may make the relationship to be very unhealthy. So last but not the least, as far as I am concerned, it is the type of parents from both sides. How does each of these partners relate with his or her parents? How has each of these people been brought up? How has the son been brought up? How has the daughter been brought up? Has she been brought up in such a way as the one who commands the whole family, the one who has no respect for her own parents, and vice versa? Is this a person who is obedient? Is it a person who really is concerned about the welfare of both the parents and the new husband? All this behavior comes into play because marriage is a union of two people who are mature. So they may display some symptoms, although these symptoms must have a root cause, and the source may be as a result of their upbringing. So it is important to look at those issues early enough. And I repeat here, if you look at all these factors and you find that you are not compatible, it is better not to commit yourself to a union for the sake of making the other partner happy, only to live in a very unhealthy relationship and you suffer for the rest of your life. Remember, when the parties suffer, even their offsprings, their children will also suffer, and the whole setup may lead to a very toxic environment for bringing up the children. So marriage is very sacred, and it is good that everybody who wants to be involved in this union understands that it is a lifetime commitment. So before you commit yourself, there are those red flags that you need to check out, so that when you are entering in this marriage, your conscience is clear and you are prepared for it, for the good or the bad. So thank you. And for those who are intending to get married, please don't get discouraged because of this. I'm only creating some awareness so that before you put yourself into this commitment, you know what you are getting into. Otherwise, marriage is a beautiful thing.